Ron Howard has been in Hollywood longer than most of us have been alive. He grew up under the lights, starting as Opie on the Andy Griffith Show at just 6 years old. Before he ever called action as a director, he'd spent 2 decades watching what great performances looked like up close. That kind of education can't be bought. Howard didn't just study film, he studied people. He watched actors handle pressure, fame, and the brutal honesty of the camera lens. When he finally stepped behind that lens, he brought with him something rare, an understanding of what actors truly need. He knew that on a film set, the difference between chaos and magic often comes down to trust, vulnerability, and respect. Over the years, 7 actors stood out to Howard, not just as incredible performers, but as teachers who changed how he saw filmmaking forever. At number 7 is Russell Crowe. Now, when Howard first worked with Crowe on A Beautiful Mind, he was nervous. Crowe had a reputation for being difficult, but Howard soon realized that wasn't the whole story. What he found instead was an artist so dedicated to authenticity that he'd fight tooth and nail for every detail. Crowe didn't just act like John Nash, he became him. He studied schizophrenia, spent time with mathematicians, even learned how Nash thought and spoke. That level of preparation stunned Howard. But what impressed him most was Crowe's willingness to be vulnerable. Most leading men hide their weaknesses. Crowe put his on full display, showing confusion, fear, and heartbreak with total honesty. That's what made A Beautiful Mind unforgettable. Howard later said Crowe taught him that when actors push back, it's not always ego. Sometimes it's instinct. Great actors protect the truth of a character, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Coming in at number 6 is Tom Hanks, Ron Howard's secret weapon. Their partnership began with Splash back in 1984, when Hanks was mostly known for goofy comedies. But Howard saw something deeper. He saw an actor who could make even the impossible feel real. Whether it was falling for a mermaid or commanding a space capsule in Apollo 13, Hanks made it all seem human, believable, and grounded. That became the foundation of their long friendship and creative trust. Over 5 films together, they developed a kind of telepathy on set. Howard could give Hanks a tiny nod, and he'd instantly adjust his tone or expression without a word. It was pure shorthand between 2 people who completely trusted each other. Howard once said, "Tom makes big stories feel small and personal. That's his magic. He anchors the wildest situations in truth." At number 5 is Michael Keaton, the unpredictable genius. Howard worked with Keaton early on, in Night Shift, and quickly realized he was unlike anyone else. Keaton didn't just read lines, he reinvented them. He'd take a simple scene and find a dozen ways to make it fresh. One moment, he was improvising wild comedy, and the next he was breaking your heart. Howard learned to stop trying to control him and instead ride the wave. Keaton showed him that chaos can be a creative tool. Sometimes the best moments happen when things don't go according to plan. That lesson changed how Howard directed forever. He stopped chasing perfection and started chasing truth. Number 4, Ed Harris, the definition of discipline. When Harris played Gene Kranz in Apollo 13, he didn't just memorize lines, he lived them. He studied NASA's mission protocols, learned the lingo, and built his performance from the ground up, like an engineer building a machine. Howard said Harris approaches acting with a blueprint. Foundation first, then structure, then details. Every gesture, every pause, every word had purpose. Harris showed Howard the power of preparation. When you know your character inside out, you don't act. You simply exist. Watching Harris on set, Howard realized that true professionalism isn't flashy. It's consistency. It's showing up every single day, ready to deliver excellence. At number 3 is Denzel Washington, a man Howard hasn't worked with directly, but has studied from afar with awe. Denzel has what Howard calls gravity. The moment he steps into a scene, the energy shifts. He doesn't have to demand respect, it just happens. Howard has said that Washington embodies leadership without ever saying a word. His performances in Glory, Malcolm X, and Training Day showed Howard what screen presence really means. It's not about shouting or commanding attention. It's about quiet control, the ability to draw the audience in with the smallest movement. Howard learned that from Denzel's work, that sometimes the most powerful acting is the calmest. At number 2, Daniel Bruhl. When Howard cast him as Nicky Lauda in Rush, he He wasn't expecting to be so deeply moved. Brule transformed so completely that Howard sometimes forgot he was directing an actor. His preparation was intense. Months of studying Leuda's voice, posture, and mindset. Even Leuda himself, said Brule, captured him perfectly. But what really impressed Howard was Brule's courage to stay unlikable. Leuda was brilliant but cold, blunt, even arrogant. Brule didn't soften those edges. He played him truthfully, flaws and all. That honesty made the performance unforgettable. Howard, said Brule, reminded him that sometimes audiences don't need to like a character. They just need to believe them. And finally, at number 1, Anthony Hopkins, the actor Howard calls a master of the invisible. Hopkins, even when Howard wasn't directing him, became a constant source of inspiration. Howard studied his work frame by frame, trying to understand how he could express so much with so little. Hopkins has this uncanny ability to convey entire emotional landscapes with just his eyes. He doesn't perform emotions, he thinks them. Howard once explained that Hopkins' secret lies in repetition. He memorizes his lines hundreds of times until they become muscle memory. By the time cameras roll, he's no longer reciting words, he's living them. That kind of control allows Hopkins to be completely spontaneous, and that paradox blew Howard's mind. He learned that the greatest actors make the hardest things look effortless. They make you forget you're watching acting at all. After a lifetime in front of and behind the camera, Ron Howard's respect for actors has only deepened. Each of these 7 performers, Crowe, Hanks, Keaton, Harris, Washington, Brule, and Hopkins, taught him something invaluable. From vulnerability to discipline, from chaos to control, they shaped how he tells stories and how he sees humanity through film. Howard once said, "Great acting isn't about pretending, it's about remembering what's real." And that might be why his movies continue to resonate. They're not just about what happens on screen, but about what happens in the heart. If you enjoyed learning about Ron Howard's favorite actors and the lessons they taught him, make sure to subscribe and stick around. Because in Hollywood, stories like these remind us why we fell in love with the movies in the first place.